Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Westborough Economic Development Committee meeting for, I guess today is October 5th, 2021. Welcome to our new board members.
Yes.
Very excited to have new faces and new people, new ideas, and great to have you on board here.
Thank you.
So to start, I think we have some minutes that we need to approve. I don't know if everybody has had a chance to review those. Any questions? And if not, then look for a motion to approve the minutes for July 20th, August 3rd, and September 7th, 2021.
So moved.
Here a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And Todd, I think we'll also need to approve the minutes for July 20th as well.
I thought I said July 20th, did I not?
It is there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I
Okay,
said July
sorry.
20th, August 3rd, and September 7th.
Got it, sorry, must have missed it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I said that.
I think you did.
All right.
It was on the list.
All right. So our 8:05 introduction new business, Madison Smith. I understand, Zach, she's not here and was not able to make it this morning, is that correct?
Yeah, she texted me letting me know that she thought the time was at 8 p.m., not 8 a.m. And so thankfully for us, it's not at 8 p.m., but due to the miscommunication, I think she will not be joining today. But she has applied for an EDC grant, so we will have the opportunity to meet her in person in November.
Okay, great. All right, so let's jump into the 810 discussion, which is the EDC Annual Awards. I think, Zach, you are going to lead us on that discussion?
Yes, of course. I think actually first, because we have some new members, or a fair number of new members, it would be helpful if somebody, maybe Todd, if you could kind of explain a little bit of the context about what this event used to be and, how we would hold it and when we would hold
Sure.
it and, kind of tee up what we're discussing today.
Yep. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, our annual award event is usually held in January, and it's a well-attended event that we recognize some businesses in the town and what they've done. I don't remember what the categories are. I think, Jim, do you recall? I mean, we have like
Sure, they
expansion
range
projects
from
and
best local foodie to company to watch. There are quite a few categories,
Yeah.
probably 12 categories.
expansions, I think.
Yeah,
and
best
things
expansion
like that.
company.
It's usually we have the lieutenant governor there. She's kind enough to spend some time with us and speak at it. I think probably well over 100 people attend that.
Yeah, we had 200 people in the
Yeah.
last live event, yes.
Yeah. The last one that we had, there were some videos done by Westborough TV, which were fantastic, very well received, and everybody still talks about how well it was done. So I don't know if anyone would like to add to that, but that's a brief overview of the annual awards ceremony that we have. Okay?
And I think why we're trying to have a conversation today about the annual awards event is because I believe at our August or July meeting, the board had aligned that we wanted to try and bring that event back, for 2021, maybe early 2022. I believe the event was usually held in January or December, sort of. Given how COVID-19 is still nagging, our community and many other communities, I think, we wanted to revisit whether or not, we want to hold the event altogether, period, whether or not we want to have maybe a smaller, pared-down version of the event, potentially in the Great Hall as opposed to at the DoubleTree with, hundreds of attendees, maybe we keep it smaller, or do something that's remote, or maybe just do the videos and have kind of like an online celebration of it. I think there's a lot of directions in which this could go, it's up to you all what you think that we can commit to and what would be best for the community.
So from a timing perspective, I know, Linda, you spent a lot of time working on the videos with Westborough TV for the last one, and I think that it would, and maybe I'm speaking out of line, but I think we'd be hard-pressed to get those videos done in time for a January event if we were to do it in January. We also don't know what, hopefully things are trending in the right direction with COVID, and as far as large gatherings, hopefully in January we'll be okay and be able to do something like that. The other thing we could potentially think about is maybe delaying it a little bit until springtime, which would give us the option, if weather permitting, maybe do an outdoor event somewhere under a tent or something like that. Maybe on Bay State Commons or something like to utilize that. So let's open up the floor for discussion, ideas, and if anyone has any thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
One thing to consider is if you're going to do a live event in a facility, we need to be looking at that, renting that facility like the DoubleTree.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I don't even know if they're allowing those kind of events yet.
So I know I'm part of the Good Scout Committee, and we're having our event next month November 10th, if anybody's interested. We're going to be honoring both Ian and Maureen Johnson, so a little plug for them right now. That is being held at the Doubletree. But to your point, we booked that months in advance in order to do something in January. I don't know. They may be open. We usually do that on a morning, so it's not. I think
Right.
that they usually have the times available. I think it's typically a Friday morning that we've done them in the past.
Or
So,
breakfast.
I don't hope, I would think that chances are we probably could book it for January, but again, I just think putting something together like that in really the next 2 months for the most part, I think would be
Not
very
enough time.
challenging for us. I don't think there is enough time.
Even beyond even a remote event, honestly, the live component of it wasn't the most time-consuming. The committee met often and spent many hours per week putting it together, and I think we're late to try to do a small event or a remote event in January. That's my feeling based on our experience a couple years ago. So I'm in favor of delaying and doing something meaningful and, special.
I think another thing to consider as well is the cost of the way this event was previously held. I believe that it had historically been funded through the EDC's gift account, and so one of the action items for setting up this event was that we would have to go out and solicit sponsorships in order to fund this event, which given the backdrop of COVID-19 and businesses still recovering from that, I think it might put my role personally in an awkward spot if we were to go that route. So I think, if there could be a way to keep the cost of it down, similar to, I think, in a style that Linda is suggesting, that is worth considering as well.
What's the capacity of the Great Hall across the street if we wanted to try to do something like that?
Well, standing only is about 500 people, but in like sardines, I mean, comfortably, you probably put 100, 150 people in there. Depends on what the event became. I mean, so in past history, it was a full breakfast. I don't know that we'd have to get on that road again, but that would be difficult to host, obviously, in the Great Hall.
Right.
I think basically the board should think about what they want to do, and then when. We actually had the keynote speaker has been Karen Polito in the past 3 years anyway, that I'm aware of, maybe 4 now. It's been a while, but, so it's another thing you have to think about scheduling it. If Karen were still to be obliged to do that, if she was so kind to come in, you'd have to schedule her usually a little bit out too. So, short answer is you can comfortably accommodate 100, maybe to 150 people in there, I would think, depending on what the event became.
I would suggest that I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off? Okay. I would suggest that you put together a committee to look at both an event that's similar to what we've held in the past, a breakfast event, inviting the Lieutenant Governor, holding it at the Doubletree, and then alternate venues and alternate formats, maybe look at spring, so that you have enough time, maybe looking at a time frame after our town meeting in the spring, so early April or something like that.
I think that's a great idea, Jim. Anybody else feel differently or have any other thoughts or ideas?
I think it makes sense.
Anyone want to head a committee, a subcommittee for this? No one?
One point that was made earlier is that if we do go with a typical event where it's at a function hall like the Doubletree and we have a breakfast, we do need to start looking at trying to solicit donations or
Absolutely.
sponsorship now.
Yeah, definitely.
I just want to make the point that that's always been the role of the non-staff members of the committee, because staff can't be going out and
Right.
soliciting donations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I'd be glad to co-chair if some more experienced board member would do it with me.
All right, I'll do it with you then.
Okay.
Thank you. All All right. And then any other volunteers who'd like to be on, how many can we have on a subcommittee? Is it,
Just less than a quorum, so.
so we could have
Probably 5.
5, right? There's
There's 11. Oh, yeah.
there's 11. Any other,
I could help. I'll help.
okay, great.
I can definitely do it as well.
All right,
We're far enough out from Arts in Common that I
yeah.
She can take a break now.
All right. Thank you all.
Yeah, I'm always happy to help you get a sense of what we've done in the past.
Thanks, Jim. Great.
And do we want to align now on a first meeting for this committee, or
I think we should. I think that's a good idea. We could do it over Zoom too, I think, right? So
Sure.
if that makes it easier for people, if you want to do that,
Either
do it
way.
over Zoom?
Yeah, either way.
Yeah. Linda, does that work better for you? You want-
I'm fine with
Okay.
whatever.
Todd, I'd throw out there, because you'd have the most experience in Jim on the committee, that you'd reach out to Karen Henderson too and see what her time frame would be. I think the
Oh,
video
absolutely.
clip was
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah,
It was the first and only time it was done, but rather than previous meetings, generally, members of the board would get up and speak about the particular
Right.
award winners.
right.
But I think the videos were just outstanding. So just to get a sense of how long it would take her, assuming they were willing to do it, how long it would take her to put that together.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Fred.
I would also like to just mention as well that we're still using Westborough TV capacity to work on the Why Westborough video, and so we should also be mindful of just how much
Yeah.
of their time we use.
Yeah. Does everyone want to shoot for like a meeting the week of the 18th? Does that work for
Yeah.
people?
Sure.
Yeah, that works.
What was the day?
The week of the 18th, that, actually Monday's good for me, the 18th, or Wednesday morning or afternoon for a Zoom call?
Mondays work for me.
Monday? Is that
For me too.
Yep.
Monday morning work, or is it?
Yeah, Monday
Okay.
morning's
Want to
fine.
shoot
Mondays are tough for me
Oh,
in
they
the
are.
morning. Afternoon's
Okay.
fine. or
Afternoon?
Tuesday morning.
Would afternoon, Monday afternoon work for people? Want to say 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon?
That's fine.
Okay, great.
Where are
Thank
you
you
going
all.
to meet?
What's that?
Where will you meet?
I think we're going to do it via Zoom.
By Zoom, okay.
Yeah.
To set up the meeting.
I'll set up the meeting. Yeah,
So-
you guys will get a Zoom link for that time and date from me. So, and sorry, Christy, could you just refresh myself and the board on some of the open meeting laws and requirements for? I think this would be a subcommittee, right? So.
Right, so an appointed subcommittee is subject to open meeting law if you're just
Right. We're
having a
not-
discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
We just
I
can't
guess
talk
you
about
just have
anything
to
else.
pay attention to
Yeah,
that.
we just can't talk about anything else. We just have to keep it to the topic of,
Well, I mean, it's good practice for a subcommittee to post a meeting,
Yeah.
especially if you're almost a quorum.
Yeah,
So if you have the time anyway, you should probably just post the meeting.
okay. Zach, do you mind coordinating that for us when you set up the Zoom? Thank
Of
you.
course, yeah, happy to do so.
we said 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you all for offering to participate. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the LRRP. Zach, I think you're going to give us an
Awesome.
update on that?
Yes, I have a relatively long PowerPoint presentation, so I'll try and.
Well, we're ahead
move
of schedule,
quickly.
so.
Yeah.
For now.
Just one second.
Don't ever say that, please.
And I guess I'll go to presenter. Great. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the stakeholders and community members who contributed throughout the LRRP process, either by engaging us and doing an interview or completing the survey or participating in the working session. That has all been very helpful, and this plan and these projects are for this community, and so they should be driven and guided by this community, and we would not have been able to develop this without everyone's input and guidance. And additionally, would like to extend a thank you to our partners at Haggerty Consulting, who helped us create these projects and this plan, as well as the Department of Housing and Community Development, which made available many resources for us to leverage as we were working through this process. So getting started, I thought it would be helpful to provide a little bit of a reminder of how we got here and what some of our process was. So the local rapid recovery planning effort, for those of you who might not know, was a state-sponsored technical assistance program specifically aimed at economic recovery of a targeted area of our community. So when the town in, I believe, November or December applied to participate in the local rapid recovery planning effort as an LRP community, we picked a study area that aligns exactly with our mass vacant storefront program district and includes most of what folks in Westborough would consider to be our downtown area. I believe it extends, I guess, west to the Congregational Church of Westborough, east, right up to the CVS on East Main Street, and then includes some of the businesses on, Milk Street up to the Mill and, Brigham Street, and adjacent to Bay State Commons, as well as including Bay State Commons. So the LRP was a three-phased effort. The first phase was a diagnostic phase where we collected a lot of data points and documents and had some interviews and conversations. The second phase was more of a planning phase where we started to put our heads together and collaborate with the technical assistance that the state was providing to try and take what we learned from the diagnostic and look at best practice examples and case studies and examples of what's working in a lot of other communities to inspire us to come up with a set of 10 projects that we might be able to implement here in Westborough. So throughout this process, we reviewed more than 10 plus documents, including the master plan, strategic plan, the parking study, 20 baseline data points. Our consulting team was privileged enough to come and do 2 site visits, so we were able to collect 15 site visit data points. We got 32 responses to our business survey, which is about a 50% response rate for our downtown businesses, which we were very proud of, and it was very competitive relative to the response rates that other communities got. We interviewed 14 key informants or stakeholders. We held a working session right here in Memorial Hall where we had a bit of a flip chart exercise with folks. We engaged subject matter experts that were provided to us from the Department of Housing and Community Development, and were able to receive up to or at least 10 hours of SME consultation as we were developing these projects. We attended 15 plus technical assistance webinars where the state tried to talk about interventions that we could do for specific issues or challenges, and we reviewed hundreds of case studies to develop this. And at the end of the day, we were able to produce 10 projects which have implementation phasing because while we are very happy to have 10 awesome projects, we can't implement them all at once. And so this page is just a high-level overview of what our 10 projects are, how they're phased, and what the estimated, and I want to put a huge caveat there on these are relatively high-level budget estimates. This program was not intended to do rigorous cost sizing of all of these things, but get us, a directional estimate really of what some of these things might cost. So I'll just go down the list, and then we can go into more detail on these later in the presentation. But our first project is about creating an outdoor dining strategy and toolkit to enable more outdoor dining, and I should stop calling it dining only, outdoor dining and selling in our downtown area. And I can go into more detail later, but leveraging our right-of-ways, potentially introducing a bulk purchasing program, or providing infrastructure assistance to businesses that want to do outdoor dining or selling and can't right now because they don't have access to their own parking lot. The second project is about creating a shared marketing program. And this one is loosely based on a campaign that has worked in Grafton, called the Shop Grafton campaign. Our third project is around developing a minority women-owned business outreach and support plan to support our underrepresented business owners who have been impacted hardest by COVID-19. Our fourth project for phase 1 of implementation is to create an online business directory to provide an alternative marketing and potentially even selling strategy for our downtown businesses and potentially even future businesses on our Route 9 commercial corridor and other corridors in town. In the second phase, we have a project around activating vacant storefronts with pop-up installations, a project on creating a comprehensive wayfinding system and introducing some wayfinding signage that you might see in places like Somerville or Waltham or Cambridge or Everett to help direct folks, to our downtown and to the assets and amenities that exist here. We have a project on creating a branding campaign and a project on launching a sign improvement campaign, a project on a night market program, and a project to promote pedestrian and bicycle mobility. And so I'll go into kind of more detail on what some of these fun taglines actually mean and what some of the nuts and bolts of these will require as we move forward to the presentation. But I'll pause here for a minute to see if anyone has any questions or would like to any further detail. Great. And I would also like to, while we're here, just reinforce as well that a lot of these projects are not only reinforced by the diagnostic work that we did in the LRRP, but through parallel strategic efforts that the town has been conducting, like the master plan, for example. I think at least 7 or 8 of these projects are either directly or implicitly called for in the master plan, and the implementation leader for most of these projects is the EDC. So while it is great that we had the local rapid recovery planning effort to help us think through these projects and to get a head start on thinking about how we would go out and implement them, most of them are not new ideas, and they are things that our community more broadly has been asking for, and that hopefully over the next 2 to 3 years we will be able to make real. So and I will be spending more time today on the phase 1 priority projects, so the first 4 here that are in the orange perforated box, because those are going to be most front of mind for us over the next year, whereas the others we'll get to, but it's not going to be an immediate effort. So our first project, which is something that I think a lot of restaurants and other businesses have been asking for and are really curious to see where it goes, is creating an outdoor dining strategy or outdoor dining retail strategy and toolkit. And so part of this project is actually already done, because through the LRRP, my project team and all of the other project teams that identified outdoor dining as a priority collaborated to create a document called the Outdoor Dining and Retail Toolkit, which outlines a bunch of strategies, considerations, and roadmaps to implementation for various types of outdoor dining policies. So it's really a menu of what could become possible, and with some instruction and ingredients on how to make it possible. It is I believe at least 40 or 50 page document, so it's very comprehensive, and I don't have it or many of the takeaways from that document here, but we will be using that early on as we start to think about where we go from Westborough's current dining policy and strategy, and using that as we engage some of our restaurants and businesses and stakeholders to think about what's right for our next step into outdoor dining and selling. But the spirit of this policy is really to draft a policy to enable outdoor dining in right-of-ways. For example, street parking, either using that to enable outdoor dining and selling for some restaurants and businesses if they so choose, or sidewalks where possible. There, we are somewhat constrained by sidewalk width and meeting accessibility guidelines for how wide the sidewalk must be. So that won't be an option everywhere, but as we kick this off and really start auditing what places or locations or restaurants and businesses would be interested in this kind of thing, that will be a consideration as well. And as well as, thinking about ways in which we might be able to provide restaurants with the infrastructure necessary to do a pilot program. We know that a change like this, and many other communities have experienced that a change like this, anything that involves taking a piece of the public realm and repurposing it for another space, a lot of people are going to have strong opinions. And so we want to make sure that for this, there's a phased implementation. And the vision for this project is that we might start with something like, a weekend-only pilot, where we aim to, either provide or encourage restaurants and other businesses to get very flexible, kind of temporary infrastructure that they could, put out on a Thursday night or a Friday night and then take down on a Sunday night, so that the community can kind of test its interest in this kind of program, and that we can iterate on it as we go forward. So the rationale for this project, I think, is probably pretty self-evident. There are a lot of other communities that have implemented outdoor dining strategies and toolkits, and I've spoken with the economic development directors and coordinators from a lot of other communities, and many of these communities will be continuing with their outdoor dining and sidewalk dining policies through the winter. So from that perspective, Westborough might be a little bit behind some of our peer communities here in this regard. But the goal for this is to get us up to speed or ahead of the game by summer 2022, which I do think is potentially realistic, and depending on the elements of the program and what we decide to roll out, I think we're going to have a really great summer of 2022. But key informants that we interviewed expressed that not all restaurants or businesses were benefiting from our existing outdoor dining strategy and policy, and that some restaurants that didn't have adequate space on their actual premises, had an inability to obtain, or an inability to use outdoor dining. And 85% of our business survey respondents indicated that expanded opportunities for outdoor dining and retail are important to them. And so we took that feedback and created this project idea, and we have a much more detailed work plan. But I will share this kind of high-level work plan here, where throughout the first 6 to 8 weeks we're kind of just doing initial planning and aligning, creating a task force, creating a work plan, conducting an internal needs assessment. Westborough has an existing process for enabling outdoor dining in parking lots for restaurants that have them. And so we'll be looking at that, as well as, I believe, a draft policy from 2019 or 2018 to enable outdoor dining and sidewalks and right-of-ways. And we'll be taking that as a first start, conducting a needs assessment, conducting outreach to our businesses to hear what their needs are, getting their feedback on our existing policies, and then creating kind of a draft skeleton policy before we pivot into really what is an iteration phase of continuing outreach, revising the program elements based on feedback, and iterating on draft regulations and requirements, while also making sure that from a procedural and legal standpoint that we're ready and prepared to do everything that we would need to do in order to make this happen. And then there will be a lot of work and time required in order to actually finalize this policy, get it syndicated with town council, make sure that we've gone through the right processes and avenues to make it happen, and that will ultimately be the bulk of the work for this as well. Our next sort of phase one project is around creating an online business directory. And this is something that other peer communities, and I can share these examples with you as well, have done, including even Grafton next door. And so the thought behind this project is to leverage some kind of IT contractor to help us create a platform and help us build an online business directory that will feature lots of information about a business and hopefully facilitate more customer visits, more customer purchases, and even partnerships between other businesses. I think an additional use case for this type of thing is if I'm a business and I am looking to get new windows and I want to shop local, you might be able to filter this business directory by businesses that say that they sell windows or do window treatments, and then creating partnerships like that among our businesses could be another offshoot of this beyond just being another additional marketing strategy or customer attraction play. The rationale for this one is loud and clear. We heard in the business survey and through some of our stakeholder interviews that there's an appetite from our downtown businesses for more shared or cross-marketing partnerships and marketing opportunities. And so, I think what this doubles back to is that the COVID-19 pandemic has had an adverse economic effect on our downtown businesses, mostly through reducing volume and traffic for on-site customers. And so trying to get creative about ways in which we can either attract more customers on-site or create more digital as opposed to word of mouth opportunities for people to know what's there, who sells what do you do, is kind of the spirit and thinking behind this. Some of the KPIs that we would track I think a lot of these projects are going to be iterative and not, just putting a bow on it and sending it out there. But we'll be tracking things like number of visits listed in the directory, monthly active users, daily page visits, and then iterating on it accordingly to kind of test some things that work and don't work as a part of this. And then, some of our key implementation partners, and I want to stress on this implementation partner section, it's not like these are the people who are going to be, doing all the work or the only people that we think are going to be involved. They're just kind of like the core folks that we are going to need to engage in order to make this really happen. And that would include our Westborough IT department, the external third-party IT consultants that we would like to contract out for this, and then a group like the Quarter 9 495 Chamber of Commerce. As we launch this, we want to make sure that it has robust information in it, and leveraging an organization like that to try and create, increase outreach to businesses, get business to participate is going to be key. And so this is the high level. I want to stress, this would have been or each one of these would have been like a 4 or 5 page work plan if we had included all of the actual work that's going to need to make these happen. But to give you a sense of the time frame and what some of the elements that will be occurring is, 6 to 8 weeks up front to conduct business outreach and, identifying desired features. We have a day one hypothesis for what that might be, but because this all needs to be community minded and, is serving our business community, we want to make sure that we have that right. Aligning internally on project goals and desired features, determining everyone's roles for the business directory and for this process, including maintenance, so who's going to be, and it most likely will be me, regularly checking in to make sure that, information's up to date and that, new businesses that come to town are aware of this resource. Week 6 to 8 will be mostly around vendor selection, issuing an RFP, going through an equitable procurement process, selecting a vendor, and then weeks 12 to 16 will be developing the platform, beginning an onboarding process for businesses by collecting necessary information, and kind of creating a marketing strategy for the platform. And then as well, there will be some ongoing work for this one, right? Like maintaining and updating the directory, periodically making aware to our community and to other potential customer markets that it exists, and things like that as well. Our next project is, for phase 1 implementation, is to create a shared marketing program. So again, I think the rationale here is that, loud and clear, we heard that businesses reported significantly less revenue throughout the pandemic than they had prior, and there's a pretty strong correlation between that and the decline in on-site customers. So the question that hopefully this project is answering is, how do we get more customers on-site, and how do we remind our community and the communities around us that Westborough has some really exciting, awesome businesses in our downtown that they can shop from and that they can meet a lot of their needs with. And additionally, again, we heard over and over again that creating more marketing opportunities for our downtown business community and encouraging more partnerships is something that there's an appetite for. And so this project is, loosely based on a Shop Grafton campaign, and the idea is that we would have a month-long period or, some other fixed time period like that, where we would have a campaign encouraging and incentivizing customers to physically visit storefronts and make a purchase. And if you, visit 10 businesses, participating businesses over that time period, you might be able to win a $150 gift card to the participating business of your choice. And so this is a pretty low-cost intervention that has worked well in some other communities, and that we think, could really remind folks, hey, hopefully we're rounding a corner in this pandemic. Come down, shop local, remember all of the great economic vitality that we do have in our downtown. Some of the KPIs here that we would track is, we would want to do a pre and post survey of participating businesses, asking them about what the impact on their revenues was that month, and we would hopefully want to see that number go up as opposed to that month in prior years. We would want to be tracking participation for the event, both on the business end and the customer end, and then, retention rates for businesses if we were to do this again. That would be an option. If it's not successful, obviously we wouldn't do it again. But if there's a lot of appetite and businesses think it worked for them and they want to do it, then we would then have an ongoing conversation about how we can make it better, tweak it, and do this thing again. And then for some of the core implementation partners, I think a lot of these are around marketing and recruitment for participating businesses. So the Quarter 9 Chamber of Commerce, the Community Advocate, Westborough TV, in terms of getting the word out there either to customers or businesses, and then our EDC ambassadors as well. Once we have that program up and running in the next kind of month or two, we can leverage that resource to help us make businesses aware that we're doing this and that it's a good opportunity for them to get involved at almost no cost to them. So regarding the high-level implementation roadmap, we would have about 6 to 8 weeks up front to kind of finalize program design, roles, responsibilities, recruit participating businesses, and then draft really a customer-facing marketing strategy. 4 to 6 weeks after that to execute on that marketing strategy, purchase any necessary equipment. So, I think the vision for this one is to have businesses and municipal offices distributing punch cards that folks can, or that businesses, participating businesses can then punch with a stamp or I guess, puncher thing. And so
Technical term?
that is we had that term handed to us by one of our subject matter experts. So, but that equipment, is something that we are visioning that the town would provide to some of these businesses and then, take back at the end of the program, and that would require some upfront investment. Creating feedback surveys before the program launch, that we have that ready. And then finally, launching the program, letting it last for a month or whatever the aligned time frame will be, selecting winners, and then again, there's some ongoing work here where we would do a post-implementation survey for our businesses and for customers, and just figure out if it worked, if it's worth doing again, and if we do it again, what kinds of changes might we make, in order to make it a better program going forward. And then our fourth and final project for phase 1 of implementation is to develop a minority women business enterprise outreach and support plan. And the rationale here is mostly that there's been a lot of evidence out there that the COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected our minority and women-owned businesses disproportionately. And anecdotally, through some of the key informant interviews that we conducted, we were able to surface that historically, Westborough has had a challenge in trying to engage and its minority and women-owned business community, and so we thought that given these underrepresented business owners are some of the hardest hit by the pandemic, and because we have struggled to kind of do outreach to them and surface what their needs are, that we would set aside some money to bring in a diversity and inclusion consultant to help us create a strategy to tap into these networks and bring them into the fold, understand what kind of support they need, specific to COVID recovery and more broadly, and create some recommendations for how the town can better serve these businesses. Some of the KPIs that we would track for this would be, the number of minority and women-owned businesses that we contact, hopefully increases in how many minority and women-owned businesses we support through EDC programming, be it, business assistant grants, business one-stop meetings, business roundtables when those start to happen again, and then number of minority and women-owned businesses memberships that are added to local business organizations. Things like Corridor 9, Rotary Club, Metro West Chamber of Commerce. And if we see a real increase in engagement, then the thinking is that, this plan and the recommendations are, working. And then for key implementation partners, I think our Diversity and Inclusion Committee would be a key implementation partner. And I've spoken to their chair to let them know that this is something that we're intending to do, and a recommendation from the LRRP to make sure that we're not doing any double work or stepping on their toes, and she is supportive. The Southeast Asian Coalition of Central Massachusetts, the Center for Women in Enterprise, and really a bevy of other local resources that we have that we can tap to try and understand how we can tackle this problem. And this implementation plan is a similar one to the online business directory because we will be looking for external technical assistance to help inform this plan and its recommendations. And so, kind of the first phase of implementation here is aligning internally on goals, stakeholders, resources that are at our disposal, of which, again, the LRP has given us kind of a day one hypothesis, but validating that and making sure that we're not excluding anybody that should be included is going to be some of the upfront work here. Conducting initial community outreach as well. And then, 6 to 8 weeks, the second phase for vendor selection, really, issuing an RFP, selecting a vendor, and doing that again in an equitable way. And then 12 to 16 weeks for, really the bulk of the work here, which is an in-depth assessment and gap analysis, synthesizing findings, drafting recommendations for our community, syndicating those findings with our community stakeholders and relevant staff, and then kind of finalizing a plan with recommendations. And then ongoing again here, this plan will have action items and prescriptions for things that we can do to better engage and support these business communities. And so that will be some work after implementation as well. I will stop here because I know I've done a lot of speaking at you guys, and those are the first 4 kind of priority for implementation. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or areas for further exploration?
Yeah, let me just comment on that first thing about the outdoor seating. So presently we have 4 restaurants under the COVID guys that are actually operating outdoor seating, and there was a 5th one that did it last year, not this year. So that all tentatively goes away in the near, what would be the near future. So that's kind of an expansion of that, how that would happen. The other issue is that none of the other sales, if you will, or restaurants have the ability to do what those 4 restaurants were able to do, mostly because they had parking. But as we're all aware, downtown doesn't have its communal parking because it's town parking. So most of the restaurants or even the other businesses don't have that opportunity. So I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Last year, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Zach, Alice and Lindsay and I partnered together with Lindsay Taylor's Spa, and we did a punch card of downtown businesses we coordinated with. I want to say it was 15 other businesses, and it was pretty successful, and we're talking about doing it again, so we'll coordinate with you. And
that'd be perfect.
yeah,
I'd love to learn from what you guys did and how it worked. And, and once, I think having local businesses that can be implementation leaders for each of these is really important. And, so that I think it's very great to know that for one of our one of the projects that we're hoping to tackle in the next, couple of months, that we already have a bit of a proof of concept and some expertise to lean on from our
Yeah,
business
I'll
community.
share the resources and materials and things. It went
That'd be great.
pretty well.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Well, Zach, I know you spent a lot of time and effort with the partners on this. It shows, and thanks for all your work on this. I think it's going to be great for the community.
job.
So thank you
Really
very
Well,
much.
we have 6 more projects, guys. So,
We're off to a good
I'll
start.
try and work through those quickly, being mindful of time.
Actually, Zach, could you pull up the original one that lists them all? The only question I had, it seemed like there's some of them that are similar, and I'm wondering if some of them could be combined.
So, one of the pieces of advice that we got from the state and from our consultants is that a lot of these, some of these could be combined in spirit, but because if you combine them, it would be such a large problem to tackle that it might be more helpful and practical for the town and for myself to kind of break it down further and get even closer to what specific details you would need, as opposed to, doing something more combined and comprehensive. But the phasing for some of these, there were, a few things that informed how we phased these. One was thinking about which ones should happen together, so that it's not disjointed, and that you have one project doing something and then a project that is similar doing something else. So, for example, specifically the branding and wayfinding one, where if we're going to come up with brand for, Westborough downtown or Westborough businesses all together, we want to make sure that our wayfinding is aligned with that brand, and ideally that whatever kind of signage we put up is in that brand. And so that's something that, we wouldn't want to do without knowing where that other project is. Similarly, in parallel, the town has, I believe, just kicked off an effort to look into the town seal and potential changes to that if that is what the town would like to pursue. And we would also want to make sure that a brand or a wayfinding system is not moving faster than that pace of work. And so those types of kind of cross-project elements were something that was considered as we prioritized and phased these. Additionally, we considered deadlines for funding resources, and in our working session, we allowed participants to, go through a prioritization exercise, saying, with stickers, which one might be most urgent, less urgent, and that was a factor that we considered as well. But so, long answer to your question, Rod. We did consider it, but we ultimately decided to go with more bite-sized action items because we could get more tactical with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add to that briefly too, is that some of these encompass policies and procedures, parking signs, so we may have to change bylaws. So some of them may be more involved than what it on first blush looks like. So you have to take that into account as well.
And Zach, just a quick question. How can we as members of the committee help, or can we provide outreach, and are there other ways other town members can help in terms of executing on some of these recommendations?
That's a great question. And I think where the EDC can play the greatest role is, I think, exactly what you said, Sean, which is each of these projects, we don't want to do anything that hasn't been syndicated with our business community and with the broader community at large. We don't want to do anything that somebody's not 100% okay with, or if we are going to do something, we want to make sure that community members' feedback is incorporated. And especially me being relatively new to town, I'm going to need to lean on you all heavily in terms of making people aware that this effort is going on, and that as we're at the phase for each of these projects where we're going to be soliciting community input and community feedback, facilitating those partnerships and, getting those people to engage is going to be, I think, a big role for the EDC and for our ambassadors. And then as well, facilitating, partnerships or, bridging the gap for what other communities or sources of inspiration are doing. If you guys see something that looks like one of these projects in another place, and you think that it could inform how we fine-tune these projects, please send that my way, and we will include that as we try and put these together as we implement them.
So I have a comment on that. I think that's really a good point, Zach. Looking at this, the activate vacant storefronts and pop-up installations, I think, directly would work with the outdoor dining strategy. And the reason for that is if people are dining outdoors in the downtown, they want to have something to look at because they're going to walk probably to the outdoor dining, and they pass vacant storefronts. It would be good to have those storefronts activated either with art installations or something that's going to fill a window that could be a temporary installation. So I think those two things kind of work together.
So it's funny you mentioned that, Jim, because originally I actually had that in phase 1 for implementation, but then I was looking at what I have teed up for phase 1 and was thinking that might not be realistic to try and get 4 of these or 5 of the projects done in parallel, and so that was why I moved activating vacant storefronts to phase 2. But we can look at it, and depending on how much work each of the first 4 feels like as we're doing it, and if there is additional capacity to do that one up front in the first phase, I think that is what would make sense. But unfortunately, we're a little constrained by just how much you can do at once. So,
I just wanted to support Zach's comments about keeping these projects manageable and prioritized, because I think a lot of time, I think you can make the same argument for the wayfinding. So people are downtown and they're, doing all these things, and so they need to know. So I think we all believe that all of these projects are really important, but I think keeping them small and manageable and prioritizing them are probably going to make us more successful in the long run. So.
I don't know if it's appropriate to actually make a motion on this meeting, or maybe think about next meeting for the EDC to support the first 4 that Zach's gone through, or maybe have time for the board to comment to Zach prior to making that motion.
Well, you have a meeting tonight, right, where you're...
I do, yeah, and it will be a pretty similar presentation.
Right,
so,
right.
But that meeting is with the broader stakeholder group, so really I invited everyone who we engaged throughout this process, not just the board members. So the reason why we have 2 meetings is because really, I guess, 2 different audiences.
Sure.
But we are having that meeting. And then the final plan, so this is in a PowerPoint format, but the state has asked us to submit it as a PDF, like text prose document. And right now we're just finalizing the final plan, which is due on Friday by end of day. And by that, I mean just, checking grammar, adding graphics and, pictures of our community to the report and things like that. But so there is a little bit of time for comment and feedback.
Well, it's due Friday, though, right?
It's due Friday,
So
yeah.
I think, Fred, you bring up a great point. I think that my feeling is that the EDC, this is something that the EDC should support, and I think it says something when it's going to the state and you submit it to the state that it has been reviewed and approved by and supported by the EDC. So I don't know how other people feel about that, but I think it's worth our time to spend a few minutes to discuss it, and if somebody wants to make a motion to vote on it, I would more than welcome that.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that the board, EDC board, make a recommendation that at least the first 4 initiatives, if you will, we would support, and then you'll be given more time to comment on the second phase, because you're not going to be implemented right away.
Is there a second? Second? All right. All in favor? Great. Thank you, Fred, and thank you, Zach.
Yep.
Awesome. And then I'll just quickly go through the last 6.
Okay.
Again, being mindful of time, I'll just try and speed through those. I did not include, anticipating that it would take a while to go through the first 4, I did not include roadmaps for these, so it could be quicker. Yes, so beginning phase 2 is creating a comprehensive wayfinding system. And so for this one, the spirit is, again, as Westborough's economy changes, I think, previously a lot of downtown's business activity came from multiplier effects from our office parks and more commercial activity on the Otis Street corridor or up on West Park Drive. And as a new normal kind of rethinks working habits and behaviors, even if all of those tenants go back to to the office, a lot of businesses are switching to some kind of hybrid thing where folks come in for 3 days or 2 days or some combination thereof. And so creating a new commercial strategy for our downtown area is very important, and wayfinding, the role that wayfinding plays in that is that the folks who are going to be coming and shopping in our downtown in the future will likely not be people that work here every day, or people that live here every day. And so creating a wayfinding system with physical signage to direct people around our downtown and to let people know of what assets and amenities and even parking is there is going to be really important as we make that transition. The Haggerty team and I had looked at some traffic data, and we've identified some preliminary spots for different types of these signs, which we did also in consultation with our subject matter experts. And so we have a vision and a idea of what we're going to need, what kind of process we're going to have to go through, and where we might be putting these things. But obviously, again, there would be a long stakeholder engagement process to validate our initial thinking, fine tune it, and then solve any other challenges or issues that we're going to need to address as we go about doing this. And then I guess I'll leave that at that for now. The next project lined up in phase 2 is to launch a branding campaign, which I've talked about a little bit, but I think, again, as we try and come out of COVID and as we try and think about a new commercial strategy for our downtown area, creating a brand, creating interest, bringing more customers to downtown and reminding them about all the great things that you have there is going to be very important as well. And it's really important that we have a comprehensive brand. A lot of other communities have done something like this, and has been pretty successful for them. And so this is something that I think we definitely want to tackle in concert with wayfinding and with kind of that broader commercial corridor strategy for our downtown area. A sign improvement campaign, I think, for rationale, this one goes without saying, and we've heard, or at least I've heard in my few months here in Westborough, a lot of discussion about signage, and be it that there's not enough, or that the guidelines are too onerous, or things like that. And so this project, especially keeping in mind that businesses have seen a significant decline in on-site customers. I believe the exact number is 73% of customers experienced a decline in, actually, sorry, that's revenue, but a similar number experienced a decline in on-site customers. And so creating ways to help businesses make their brand known, I think, is really important. And so for this project recommendation, we are recommending that we would look into amending the zoning bylaw to allow for projection signs in our downtown business district, as well as potentially offering businesses participating eventually, or as potentially offering participating businesses matching funds in some kind of form, either through a separate funding mechanism or through the EDC grant program, to upgrade their signs and implement these projection signs. The project also recommends, because we heard a lot of issues with signage from our downtown business community, but we're unable to pin down exactly what the spirit of the issue was, or what the pain point really is, to conduct a deeper audit of our signage and zoning regulations to further assess changes to accommodate business friendliness. And so this one is kind of a multi-phased effort, where the first phase is looking at the zoning bylaw and amending it to allow for projection signs, creating some kind of funding vehicle, be it existing or new, to help businesses upgrade to these signs, and then looking further at our signage regulation to see if there are any further opportunities that we would like to consider much later down the road. Our next project is on creating a night market program. The rationale for this one is also related to trying to make our downtown area more of a destination, and a destination that has some cultural assets as well. Another one of the things we heard loud and clear in the business survey and from our key informant interviews was that our downtown area really tends to die down at night, and there isn't much nighttime activation. And so we were thinking of ways in which we could try and activate that space at night and, create more selling opportunities and more customer attraction opportunities for our businesses, as well as also use the night market program as a potential way, like a test for prospective businesses that we're trying to attract to come to Westborough to test their market and to set up a stand at the night market and see if this is a market that works for them. And so it really, I think, has a lot of benefits, and this is another low cost intervention that I think there's been a lot of appetite for and that we could implement relatively quickly. And then our final project is to promote pedestrian and bicycle mobility, again, through maybe a multi-phased approach. And the first phase would be like a pilot program of increased pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure in our downtown. Might include things like parklets or pop-ups, either in the space of parking spaces or in other open spaces in our downtown community. And we might have to work with some landlords or property owners to try and get those spaces activated like that if they're not municipally owned spaces, to just allow people to get a taste of what a more interconnected, pedestrian friendly, activated downtown could look like, and to see if there is appetite for maybe a more permanent type change. And then to look into more permanent type changes or more large-scale interventions through a longer-range mobility study of our downtown area after we've kind of gone through this demonstration pilot. And we had a subject matter expert from an organization called Beta Group, which was very helpful in having us think through this program, and actually created a very nice visual, which I tried to include here but was unable to figure out how to make it work, with kind of what we might do and where we might put it and the dimensions and all of the things that we might need in order to create a parklet or to create some more pedestrian infrastructure downtown. And I shared that visual with all of the LRP stakeholders as part of the review, but I can share that with the committee as well as the outdoor dining toolkit as well offline. That is just the overview of what our 10 projects will be, and how we thought about phasing and what some of the key elements of each of them are. And granted, I want to stress again that these are living projects. While we are asserting that these are the recommendations from the LRRP, the actual tactical design and some of the program elements we tried to design with a degree of flexibility, so that as we continue to syndicate this with the community, and as people provide input or have good ideas, that we can consider that and incorporate it if it's what makes sense and aligns with the broader community vision.
Nice job, Zach.
Yeah, that makes perfect
Fabulous.
sense.
Could you go back to the Activate storefront? We might have missed that one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this one actually was inspired by some interventions that they've done in New York City. New York City has what I would consider to be a pretty successful program called Art on the Corner, where New York City Department of Economic Development has partnered with some property owners to create these kind of like galleries in vacant storefront windows. And there are a couple on the Upper West Side, and I actually got to see one, and it was I thought it was a really cool, inventive use of space. And I think it serves a dual purpose of, one, it creates another amenity for people who are walking around, or after dinner they're walking back to their car, or just want to explore our downtown area. It creates another amenity for them to do. It creates an opportunity for local artists to have a gallery to demonstrate their work. It makes our downtown area seem less vacant. And also it provides a vision for potential tenants and for, real estate agents for what, an activated space could be, as opposed to just a, window with the paper on it or, an ad. And then, there has been some evidence that things like this actually help lease spaces out faster as well. Because if you're a prospective tenant and you go and you see something that looks like a finished product rather than a shell, you're more likely to see the vision for what this place could be for you and your business as well. And so that's a little bit more, Linda, on this project. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
I had a random idea, which is why I wanted to bring this back. I mean, there's some businesses like Nurse Farm and Uhlman's that are on the, edge of town. And when I think about why do I drive to Hudson with my kids, right? I go to the micro creamery, and wouldn't it be, it would be so cool if they had like a little pop-up storefront for some of those businesses on the exterior of town, especially as they head into the season where they close for the season. It's a totally random idea. I have no idea if those businesses would be interested. And thinking about even LCK, like a little pop of your artisans doing some cool work.
Yep.
Just throwing out an idea.
No, I think that's a great idea. And I mean, we tried to keep the use of these vacant storefronts as somewhat flexible to allow for things like that. So, temporary art installations, temporary pop-ups for local entrepreneurs, that is, built in, or that flexibility is built into the project worksheet. And there are case studies of even local communities that use these spaces for pop-ups. So Newton actually uses their vacant storefronts for pop-ups, and they have a lot of things that we can borrow from them in terms of doing that. So program guidelines and agreements that they have between the pop-up and between the property owner and landlord. And so that is there and something that we could incorporate. The reason why, I think I present this more focused around the art uses is because, just from an insurance perspective, from a, keeping the space, not clean, but keeping the space not damaged or not, in any worse off shape than it was previously. When we start talking about having pop-ups and entrepreneurs in storefronts on a temporary or 15-day or 20-day basis, it makes it a little trickier. And I think we also want to include flexibility for the landlords and the real estate agents to, if they get a lease tomorrow or the next day, to be able to move in their tenant. And with some of those active entrepreneurial pop-up uses, it can, you need more time to take that down and to, before a tenant can move in, as opposed to, a gallery or something. So.
I know we're pressed for time, but I could see something like that being part of a night market also, pulling something like that in. Like Hudson does their 8 o'clock, open till 8, Thursday nights thing.
Any other questions or comments?
Interviewing from the audience. Zachary, we do that at the Westborough Shopping Center, and I'm responsible for putting pop-ups in all the vacant spaces. I'd be happy to consult with you. My name's Ed Turner.
It's great to meet you, Ed, and I will be getting your business card after this meeting, because I would love to touch base in the next couple of weeks about that.
Great, thank you. All right, if that's it, I appreciate all your efforts on this, Zach. You can tell that you put a lot of hard work and time and effort into it, so thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the discussion of Article 17 on the special town meeting warrant, and I think this has to do with alcoholic beverages, and Zach, you were going to walk us through this one?
Yes, so this one is actually very much related to our local rapid recovery planning effort, because part of enabling outdoor dining will be having to write local regs for alcohol consumption in public spaces. And so Article 17 on the special town meeting warrant would amend the town's general bylaws to allow for alcohol, or to create a process for alcohol use in public right-of-ways. And so the passage of this warrant article is pretty critical for enabling outdoor dining for businesses that don't have their own parking spaces going forward. And at least I believe that is why it is relevant to the Economic Development Committee and something that should be discussed and hopefully supported. I shared via email, and apologies for not providing hard copies to the text for the actual article. And if you guys would like to take a minute to read it or to to discuss, I think that would be valuable.
There might be some hard copies of the warrant next to Kristen. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Has this been presented to the Board of Selectmen? Have they voted on it already?
Yes, yeah.
And they supported it, I
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just about to pull it up. 5-0.
5-0, okay, thank you.
It's the article, part of the reason for the article was also that the town buildings have some flexibility in terms of having events that have alcohol. One thing that we thought about when the Forbes building opened was that room might have some use in the future that would present a need or an opportunity for having alcohol in the building, and right now that's not allowed under the town bylaw. So this would really allow the board to grant that type of permission, but also we have, as Zach mentioned, we've been talking about outdoor dining since 2018, trying to figure that out, and this is just one piece of that we need to take care of.
Okay, great, thank you.
So this is a draft. The warrant has been posted, but the article hasn't changed.
We'll give everybody a minute to review it, and then if there are any questions, feel free to ask away. Any questions or any concerns? Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Make a motion that will support Article 17? Okay, a second?
A second.
All in favor? Great. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda was a discussion of Article 20 on the special town meeting warrant, and it's my understanding that that article is still being, I guess there's some revisions being done to it, and they're not ready to present here to us today. And I think they have, they're going to be going back to the planning board and working with the planning board and some other boards.
Yeah,
as
if
well,
I can
perhaps.
speak to that,
Yeah.
just
Okay.
to inform the committee a little further. So the public hearing was open 2 weeks ago at the planning board meeting.
Right.
Since that time, there's been a lot of discussion about the dimensional requirements, questions about whether or not it creates spot zoning, legality of the issue itself. So the applicant, Clear Channel, sent a letter yesterday to the planning board requesting withdrawal of the article.
Okay.
Their representative gave us a formal letter. They want the article to be referred back to the planning board for further study and to reappear at a future town meeting.
Okay.
The planning board will receive that letter this evening, and probably, I would suspect, that that's the way they will go.
Great, thank you, Jim. All right, so moving along, actually, Jim, we have the planning department report.
Yeah, thank you. So that was the number one thing I was going to talk about. Also, the previous Article 19, if you have your warrant, you can take a look at that. That was to create an overlay zone for 4 parcels, 4 properties on Otis Street. And the planning board held a hearing on that 2 weeks ago and decided to refer that to committee as well. Several property owners also on Otis Street that were not listed in the article wish to have their property examined for the overlay district as well. So the planning board took that under advisement and decided it was better to refer the article back to the planning board for further study to reappear at a future town meeting.
Right. And so, Jim, this is an overlay district that we had implemented a few years ago on the east side of town, correct?
Correct.
Right. So now we're looking to do this on,
And just a little explanation for the new members on the committee. The Industrial B district exists already on Otis Street, and it allows businesses such as restaurant, retail, office, R&D, manufacturing in the district. And right now, the limitations for development are 40% coverage, 60% open space, 4 stories, and adequate parking. The overlay district on the east side of town allows an expansion and an increase in density or intensity of development to allow 6 stories of development and 60% coverage with only 40% open space in exchange for low-impact development techniques and LEED certified or environmentally sensitive building practices. So the thought being that we would try that on the west side of town. It was brought forward 2 years ago, and there was opposition to it, so the planning board withdrew the article. There's been a request for the article to reappear, and so the planning board is considering that now. And as you may know, it was for properties at 60, 64, 50, and 58 Otis Street, but other property owners that abut and are across the street have also asked for that. So the planning board will study it further and come back to town meeting.
Great, thank you. Any other things to report from the planning board?
Town meeting articles are probably the most pressing. Since our last time that we met, the planning board has officially adopted the master plan. I want to thank everybody that worked on that. That was a big effort. COVID delayed us a little bit. Almost 2 years took to complete the project. It's typical for a project like that to take about 16 to 18 months. So we didn't lose much time. We only lost a couple months. But several of the items that you saw previously in Zach's presentation are also critical components of the master plan. And if anyone wants to ever talk about it, please give me a call. We can set it up an appointment where we can go over the master plan. Happy to do that.
Great. Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim? No? All right. Next is the Community Development Department report.
So from the Community Development Department, we have a couple new businesses that have opened. Vivacity Nutrition opened earlier this month on September 11th at 3 Summer Street. Simply Windows has opened on 133 East Main Street in that commercial building like across the street from the McDonald's. We have some, I guess, upcoming businesses. You might have seen some activity at 8 to 10 West Main Street, and that is because Sotheby's International Realty and Matthew Newton are moving across the street into 810 West Main. Azure Stained Glass Studio is moving into 9 Grove Street. And then we have 2 restaurants that are moving into locations on Route 9. One into the Not Your Average Joe's location at 197 Turnpike Road, and then one into the old Chateau location at 95 Turnpike Road. Additionally, for the Business Assistance Grant Program, we have already expended just over $10,825 of our total $40,000 allocation for the fiscal year 2022. November, our next meeting will be a review period for EDC grant applications. And so far, we have received 3 for November review. One from Azar Stained Glass Studio, one from Sheer Transformation, and one from Vivacity Nutrition. I expect that we will receive at least a few more applications, as I've had a couple businesses reach out to my office asking for more details and for the grant program. So that is good news, but expect a long meeting of back-to-back reviews in November. Other information is that Olympus Westborough has actually been announced as a Central Region finalist for the 18th Annual Mass Econ Team Massachusetts Economic Impact Awards. And so congratulations to them, and we're very happy for that. For the board members who were there, I believe in June, the EDC decided to nominate 3 or 4 businesses to the 18th Annual Economic Impact Awards, and so we're very happy to see one of our nominations be selected as a finalist. Mass Econ is hosting a forum for advanced manufacturing on Wednesday, October 6th. If you would like to join or anything, let me know and I can provide you with the details. Regarding the Why Westborough video, I have a follow-up meeting with Westborough TV scheduled for Wednesday, October 6th. Throughout August, Westborough TV and I have been collaborating to develop a full script for the video and align on what shots we're going to use, for each piece of text or each point. We're still wordsmithing it a little bit, but we are very close to a final version, and we are identifying speakers for the video. The Corridor 9 495 Chamber of Commerce is hosting 3 ribbon cuttings in the next few weeks. One is for Vivacity Nutrition on Monday, October 13th. Another is for Smiland Pediatric Dentistry and Braces on Monday, October 25th. And then Convenient MD is to be scheduled, I believe, later this month. Additionally, the town of Westborough and the Community Development Department are collaborating with 15 downtown businesses to host a Main Street trick-or-treat event on Tuesday, October 26th from 4 to 6:30 p.m. If you are a business or if you know a business that is not involved and would like to get involved, we are still adding businesses to the list and are going to publish a revised business list and business map, I believe, the middle of next week. And we're very excited about that and our costings. And additionally, related to the local rapid recovery planning effort, attachments to Regional Economic Development Organization grant applications have been submitted to the 495 Metro West Partnership for 3 projects. A shared marketing program for downtown businesses, which is the one that's based on the Shop Grafting campaign, the Minority Women-Owned Business Outreach and Support Plan, and the Online Business Directory. So what that means is the DHCD made available a funding source specific for local rapid recovery planning projects, and the mechanism for that is the Regional Economic Development Organization, or REDO, grant application. So every year, the 495 Metro West Partnership applies for REDO grants to do some of the work outside of its normal operating budget, and this year there is additional money specifically earmarked to fund LRRP projects in their constituent communities. So we have actually submitted a funding request for 3 out of the 4, and the only 3 projects that require immediate funding from our first phase of prioritization. We will see if they all get funded, and if so, to what amounts. But we are very excited to have the ball rolling, at least on a few of these LRRP projects. Fred, do you have anything to add?
Real quickly, and I didn't have a chance to talk to Zach about this. I'm happy to see finally today, I think I'll be issuing the certificate of occupancy for Convenient MD. Burger King's not much further behind that. We've run into a little snafu in their circulation, so we're working through that. As soon as that's taken care of, they hopefully should be able to serve burgers finally. So hopefully by next month I'll be able to update you on that.
Thank you.
And that's it from us.
I just have a question, Zach. Are you able to share any of the details of who the 2 restaurants are on Route 9?
Yeah, so they have submitted, I believe, business certificate was submitted by Torito Mexican Restaurant for 197 Turnpike Road into the old Not Your Average Joe's location. I believe they've already started work there too. I think, Fred, they've submitted
Yeah, we have a building permit on that.
Yeah, and at the other location, it's a restaurant called, I believe, South Sea Village, and they have filed for a liquor license, which I believe was before the select board a week or 2 ago, or something like that.
Is that an Asian food concept?
I believe it's like a Asian seafood type cuisine, but I'm not 100% certain.
Okay, thank you.
Ed?
Can I interrupt again?
Sure.
I assume you got my application for the art and training forum, which I put in the deadline and everything, which is why I'm here today.
Oh, I don't believe I have.
So I did that for Katie O'Brien. I had that applied. last month, so that it would be in time for this meeting so I could go over my case. Is that something I could do today, or do I have to wait till November?
So the grant program, we actually recently had voted to review applications in 4 review periods annually. So November would actually be the next opportunity for us to review your grant application and make a decision on it. We should touch base though, because if you had sent that to Katie O'Brien, you might have been using an out-of-date.
So that can be with you offline.
Do you want
Yeah.
to make my case for like 5 minutes? Is that cool with the committee? Or do I have to wait?
If I may interrupt, so
Yeah.
generally, there's a working group that goes through the applications and whatnot, so if it's lacking information, we get clarification, so it comes to the board, it's a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, it says here that you have to complete your case, so I'll just.
You will,
Okay.
actually. That is correct. But Zach can talk to you more about that offline. I apologize, what happened is, our previous EDC coordinator, Katie O'Brien, obviously is no longer here. Zach has taken that position.
Great job.
Yeah, he's,
I'm very
Thank you.
impressed, I have to say, from a business owner, from what I'm hearing.
Awesome.
so I'm glad you actually showed up, because your grant would have been lost in the shuffle. Sad to say, but now it'll be found.
Well,
So that's good.
can I take 1 minute of the committee's time just to tell you about how excited I am?
Sure.
The Art and Frame Emporium in the corner of the Westborough Shopping Center is trying to expand and bubble into where the old Jenny Craig, which has been abandoned for years, which is why I'm here at the committee requesting some help. We have such a unique opportunity because we have an open courtyard in front of the Art and Frame Emporium, which is something you're struggling with the COVID-19 issues. And I have the ability to allow the fresh air, let people come in and socialize and not have to be compounded by those issues. So I'm excited to apply to this committee, hopefully for the next time. So I'll talk to you after this.
Yeah, let's touch base, and I'm gonna make sure that I have your email as well, just so that we
Sure.
and you have mine. But congratulations on the expansion.
Thank
I'm
you.
very excited to see that happen.
Thank
So.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ed. Any other business?
Given that we have 4 new members, we should potentially consider a change to the meeting time if this time does not work for everyone. Given that you're all here, I would suppose that it does work, but if there's a more preferable meeting time, now would be a time to discuss that.
How do people feel about it?
Perfect for us.
I like,
Yeah,
first thing in the morning, and everybody good with that?
absolutely.
Works for us.
Good? All right. Discussed and,
Sounds good.
all right. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
Well, I'd make a motion to close the hearing.
Thank you, Fred.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Great, thank you, everyone. Thank you. We'll see the subcommittee in a couple weeks and see everybody else in a month.
Look at that, right on time.